When it comes to the U.S. economy, both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have embraced ideas of government intervention, but the two presidential candidates have vastly different ideas about what that would look like in the real world. Kevin Hassett, former Council of Economic Advisors chair under President Trump, is with us. He's a distinguished visiting fellow at the Hoover Institution. And Jason Furman, former Council of Economic Advisors chair under President Obama. He is a professor at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. And I really don't want to pick on either one of you about things that you have to defend from the respective candidates. But I think I'm going to do it anyway, though. I think I have to. And I'm sorry to start with you, Jason, because, and I got to give you credit. You weren't mean about it, but you kind of tried to say price controls are probably not a great idea. You said it right away. No one had to prompt you. You are, after all, trained in economics, so it wasn't that big of a leap for you to make that statement.
Yeah, so thanks for picking on me as always, Joe.
I'm going to get to Hassett. I'm going to get to Mr. Tariff, Kevin, and Mr. Never Cut Entitlements, Kevin Hassett. Go ahead.
Yeah. Look, did I like the proposal she had about price gouging? No. Do we know the details of it? We don't really know them, but some of what's trickling out suggests this might be more like the things that states do, which I think are also mistaken, but are a relatively small and inconsequential mistake, not the type of sweeping price controls that some people have described it as. You know, for me, though, when I heard her convention speech, I didn't hear her mention this. I heard her talk about economic growth, optimism about America, opportunity. I think those are the things she cares about much more deeply than this bit of a misfire proposal.
I promise I'll get to Kevin Hassett, I promise. But is there a thread, Jason, consistently running through the Democratic Party of populism that just makes it incumbent upon, I guess, people running for office and people in office to bash corporations? I mean, at the same time that President Biden or Kamala Harris pointed out that we came back from the pandemic better than anywhere else and that, you know, I've created 15 million jobs. You know, it's the private sector that's doing these things. It's our vibrant private sector economy, maybe in partnership sometimes with government, maybe with guardrails. But why the corporate bashing? Do you agree with it all the time? Is it always about corporate greed, all our problems?
Look, I think there's too much populism in both political parties right now, too little recognition that, as you just said, you know, it's the businesses that create the jobs, the businesses that are raising real wages, and the government needs to help create the conditions to contribute to that. But again, there's a big difference. I mean, you're going to get to the tariffs in a moment. Some of the populism we're hearing on the Democratic side is populism light. They're very targeted tariffs. They're this very targeted price gouging proposal. On the other side, you have 10% tariffs on every single country in the world, every bit of vegetable, fruit you get from another country, a toy you buy, all of that going up in price. So I think there is a real difference in scale in terms of how the populism is implemented by these two candidates.
Okay, Kevin, now your turn. This is not your father or grandfather's conservatism. It's like, I don't know what it is sometimes that we hear from Donald Trump, whether former President Trump, whether it's, you know, suggesting that the president should have a vote on the Fed's open market. You know, the tariffs, there are some bonkers ideas that come out of that side at this point. You probably have trouble defending.
Oh, I mean, if you have a specific thing that you want to talk about, let's
you don't want to. Okay. 20%.
No, I'm just saying which one you
tariffs
want.
Not targeted tariffs. Tariffs across the board on anything.
Right. Well, the headline tariff policy for President Trump is the Reciprocal Tariff Act. And what he wants to do is immediately set the tariff in the U.S. equal to the tariff that other countries charge us. And I'll send Steve Leisman a chart, because I know he loves charts, that shows like the tariff we charge on other guys and the tariff they charge on us. And even like our best trading partners, which are probably the Europeans, they're charging double the average tariff rate that the U.S. does. And that really upsets President Trump. And I would expect that next year, that he would pass something called a Reciprocal Tariff Act, maybe even a reconciliation, and that would, basically induce probably countries around the world to reduce their tariffs to our rate. But if they didn't, then then probably that's going to be will go up. And the thing is that there are a lot of countries like India which are like 20% above us, and so I guess the question is, how high does our tariff go on guys like that? And I think that the cap on that would probably be 10%.
Jason, you're probably so tired of trying to defend, I don't know, maybe you like the capital gains, the highest ever at 45%, or unrealized capital gains, but you must have things. I mean, tell Kevin what is the most heinous suggestions you've heard from the other side for their economic, because you got to be at this point getting a little defensive to have to answer, because with so much bad policy coming from the left, you got to be defensive. So give it right back to Kevin Hassett.
I don't think it's so much bad policy from the left. I'm not going to agree with every details, but broad strokes, I agree. But look, the problem with the tariffs is you can do this unilaterally. The president has the authority to raise tariffs to 10%. I haven't heard him say it's reciprocal. I've heard him say 10%, possibly 20% on every single country in the world.
It's in the platform, Jason. It's in the platform.
Something
you don't
actually need. And there's a big difference. I mean, the price gouging we were talking about before, you need 60 votes in the Senate. So might be a fun thing to talk about on the campaign. It's just not going to happen. These tariffs are going to happen. When it comes to the Fed, I think that's an even bigger risk, but he probably won't be able to do what he wants to the Fed. I don't think he would succeed. But if he did, that would be devastating to the most important and effective institution we have in our economy, one that he has just absolute contempt for.
Kevin?
Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about Trump, but then you got to let me talk about some of Vice President Harris's proposals. Okay,
all right. Right. Yeah, I know that Jason doesn't want to do that, but go ahead.
Yeah. So the thing to remember, Joe, is with the economy growing pretty good, with inflation at like 1.8%, President Trump is elected. Before he's inaugurated, the Fed starts hiking rates. And he viewed that as a political move. And it was a political move by a Fed chair who became Treasury Secretary for Biden. And, I have old friends with Janet Yellen. But from the beginning, he felt that there was a partisan angle to Fed policy. And it's something that, he speaks his mind when he's on those things. But you might also recall there was a day in the Trump administration where after studying it and thinking about it, President Trump agreed that he wasn't going to fire Jay Powell. I think I remember I went out and talked about it on TV that day, and the market went up a lot. And when he was flying back at Air Force One from the Middle East, he called me up. He said, "Hey, Kevin, we got to put you on TV more." And so, he understands Fed policy. But the thing I want to do about Senator Harris or Vice President Harris is I want to start by saying that for me, the headline for markets is uncertainty. And so if you look at my friend Dave McCormick, who's running for Senate in Pennsylvania, he's got a YouTube compilation of things that she said in the past, which has gotten zillions of views that are radically different from the things she's saying now, like, ban fracking, ban offshore drilling, all that kind of stuff. And so I think people should go look at that YouTube video and then think, well, is that what she really thinks? Or is what she's doing now, basically doing perhaps what Joe Biden did, which is running towards the middle before they get elected, and then they do whatever they want. So for example, calls for the end of the filibuster so that we could pass the Green New Deal and end fossil fuels. Like there's actually like a statement where she's saying those things. But if you look at the things she does say she's going to do, it's striking the capital gains rate, a taxation on unrealized capital gains. I can't imagine that Jason would support that, especially at the rate that it's at. But the worst thing for me, which hasn't received any press, is that the estate tax goes to 65%. And this is something their campaign has confirmed. But they also want to tax unrealized capital gains in the estate, which is 44.6%. So their estate tax proposal is to tax them 109.6%. They're calling for a bigger than 100% tax on estates. And I know Jason wouldn't support that either. But the point is, I guess, what I think of, and Jason and I have endeavored as former CEA chairs to stay on the substance as much as we can, that if they're proposing a bigger than 100% tax, then it's like we need to understand, have some sympathy, that they've been running a campaign for a few weeks. And usually when you're running a campaign, Jason's been on campaigns. I think Wesley Clark, I think you were on his campaign a long time ago, if I remember right, Jason, that you spend months developing policies, and they've been sort of having to do it on the fly, and it's really quite visible in the things like a greater than 100% tax rate proposal, which I can't imagine they really believe that. But so therefore, for me, the headline is uncertainty. That is she as left-wing as the statements that she makes? It's not what we make, statements we make about her. It's things that Dave McCormick has just compiled. And then the second thing is, like, what are they actually going to do? And they're trying to signal it now, but then even then there's errors and flaws in what they're proposing.